I'm Annie.
And I'm Cam.
And together we are...
Annecam. Okay, darling.
Yes, darling.
Tell us about where this idea to buy a yacht and sail was hatched.
My husband decided it'd be a really good idea to buy a yacht and sail around Australia. Mind you, he told me this on our honeymoon, so of course it was too late then. Well, nearly. And so, even knowing how seasick I got in a trailer boat, he still thought this was a great idea. So I kind of thought, well, you know what? This stupid idea will hopefully go away. But it didn't. And 3 years later, we were heading to Croatia to buy a boat because he couldn't find something that was suitable in Australia. So off we went and found this boat, Annecam. What made you want to do this trip in the first place?
Oh look, a lot of years ago, I'm sure that not too many of the current generation of people remember a newsreader by the name of Bill Peach. A squillion years ago, back when the earth was cooling, he did a series that went on TV from the outside looking in. And that lit a little fire inside me. I thought, I want to do that one day. I want to sail around our home country. And seriously, I let the cat out of the bag on our honeymoon when I told Annie, my beautiful new bride, that I was going to buy a yacht and we were going to sail around Australia one day. So we started looking for yachts and found they were way too expensive here in Australia, outside of our budget, for something that was reasonable, that would carry us around Australia. And the search eventually took us over to Croatia. Croatia is where we found this beautiful yacht, originally called El Sueno. We changed the name to Annecam. And from there, the rest is history. Okay, what was your first impressions of this boat, and where did we find this yacht?
We headed to Croatia to a place called Supership, and we were to meet up with our broker to have a look at Annecam, which was at that stage El Sueno, which we subsequently changed to Annecam. Okay, do you consider that it could have been entrapment?
Oh, definitely entrapment.
Okay, so
it worked.
When we got to the dock where Annecam was on, I remember looking up at all the rigging and thinking, what on earth do you do with all this stuff?
Could you tell us about your very first sail on this beautiful yacht?
We went with the previous owners, Mikhail and Ernst Hackle, for a short cruise around islands off the coast of Zadar. Mikhail had this boat specially made to his specifications, so we found it to be a very, very comfortable boat.
What day did we purchase this beautiful yacht? What day was it?
It was on my birthday. What a birthday present. Yeah, you haven't been able to beat that one since, have you?
What was our first international country we sailed to when we cleared out of Croatia?
We went across to Italy, to Ancona. Oh. We went to Ancona in Italy.
And we only stayed there a few days.
We did.
We cleared out after a bit of red tape with the harbour master. And where'd we sail to?
We sailed back to Croatia.
And we cleared in what location?
We cleared in at Sali, and we nearly got into a lot of trouble because Madam Lash was there at customs, and apparently you're supposed to bring your boat into the very small harbour at Sali where there was no room, so we kind of parked over the other side of the island and got a taxi to the customs place. But that wasn't good enough. We were in big trouble, and she was threatening to fine us and have us arrested. So fortunately, by the time we did get back around there, after we'd sat out a storm in another bay and got back there, she was off duty. So we needn't have worried, and the next guy couldn't have cared less. So officials.
And how long did we spend in Croatia all up?
Oh gosh, would have been nearly a year, 11 months. Yeah, and it was the most beautiful, beautiful place.
And what was your favourite location in Croatia of all of them?
Ooh. I think Kruka, the national park, was absolutely fantastic. I loved all of Croatia, but Dubrovnik, places like that. But I certainly loved Zadar because we spent so much time there, and Sukošan, of course. So, all of it. All of it.
And what was the first country we sailed to after Croatia?
That would have been Montenegro. That was really specky. As we sailed in there, the huge mountains were all just surrounding us, and all we could say was wow, wow, wow. That seemed to be the only word we could find. It was so unbelievably beautiful.
And how many steps were there up to the old fort above the city of Kotor?
1,000 and more? 4,000. Oh, you don't even know.
That's why I'm asking you.
It was a bloody lot, because we went early in the morning with our friends Angela and Steve from Split Ends, and we decided we'd go early because the steps, the whole of that mountainside was in the shade until later on in the morning. So we decided it'd be a really good idea to go in the morning, which it was, and it was absolutely fantastic. But when we got down, we had to find the nearest tavern to have a beer. We were nearly dead.
Okay, from Montenegro, where did we sail?
We went from Montenegro to Greece, and I think our first port of call was Corfu. And yeah, that was a very interesting place. Lovely.
And then Corfu is in the Ionian, part of the Ionian Islands, the Greek islands there. Then we went into the Gulf of Corinth and through the
Corinth Canal. That was an extremely interesting place, the Corinth Canal. It was very narrow, so it was a little bit scary because the canal master, I suppose, kept telling us to speed up. But we couldn't speed up because we had a rather large vessel in front of us that was going very slowly. And I remember us losing steerage quite a bit, and you could see down each side of the canal where boats had scraped along there, and I'm looking and feeling very uncomfortable about the whole thing. But the actual canal is mind-blowing. It still has the little hand and footholds where the slaves climbed up, and heaven only knows how many people would have died creating that canal. It was unbelievable. Okay,
dear. We sailed around the Mediterranean for 3 full seasons, and they were full seasons, because if my memory serves me correctly, we jumped off the boat towards the end of November in Gibraltar on the end of that 3rd season.
Mm-hmm.
We flew back to Australia to spend Christmas with family. And then I flew back over by myself to meet 2 crew members at Gibraltar. 2 crew members which I managed to pick up off Crew Finder, a website where people put their names up and hopefully they're selected to do passages around the world. Sailed across the Atlantic Ocean over to the Caribbean. And where did you meet up with us in the Caribbean?
The British Virgin Islands in Tortola.
And from there you stayed on board all the way down through the chain of islands, is that correct?
That is correct.
Out of all of the sailing you've done on Annecam, what is the most terrifying time you've had on board?
Oh, that's an easy one. Crossing the Caribbean Sea, heading towards Panama, and spending 2.5 days in terror in a storm, 74 knots of wind, huge seas, thinking where is the nearest airport, and finally getting into Cartagena in Colombia in one piece was such a relief.
Okay, dear, what is the highlight since we've been on board Annecam? What's one thing or one time that stood out in your mind?
Oh wow, so many. Gee. I think sailing into Montenegro was pretty high up the list. Sailing into Sydney was probably one of the most spectacular things, and I never expected, you know, Sydney. Been to Sydney, but sailing in there, it's just out of this world. I loved it.
Any other ports or harbours that stood out?
Oh, Valletta's another one that stood out. But you know, the Pacific nations, they don't have these spectacular harbours, but they have the best people and the best islands and the best communities, and the Pacific Islands are probably way up there as well.
Now, tell us your version of what happened on Tanner Island, Vanuatu.
We were anchored in a bay, Wasisi Bay, hopefully that's how you pronounce it, and two of the local fellas paddled up next to us, and we had a bit of a chat, and they invited us to come ashore to meet the village. So unfortunately we didn't have a lot of stuff to be able to give as gifts, so we managed to find key rings of kangaroos and koalas and fish hooks and other fishing bits and pieces, and some clothing that we no longer required. So we were able to take them ashore with us, and as we walked ashore, they came down to the shore to meet us, the two fellas, Andrew and Sam, and they took us to the village, and as we approached there were two single chairs sitting side by side, and all the village children were sitting on a grass mat in front of these chairs, and the rest of the village were in a circular area behind the children. So we felt like royalty, and they were the most beautiful people. They gave me gifts of handcrafts that the women of the village had made, a woven bag, things that you stick in your hair that have feathers, a lei, oh gosh, I can't even remember. Oh, and a fan that they'd woven. So they're just beautiful, beautiful people, very generous, and as we walked back to our dinghy, the children, a couple of the children of the village held my hand. I just wanted to take them with us, but that would have been kidnapping.
Okay, one last thing. What was your feeling deep inside as soon as you sighted Australia for the first time?
That was the best feeling of the whole trip, really. I mean, I loved it all, but to actually see Fraser Island and know that we were in our home country finally after 6 years or 5.5 years was pretty special. I think just, and you know, going ashore and going into shops and recognising things in the shops and speaking the same language. Yeah, it was just lovely to be home. It was a wonderful experience, but there ain't no place like home, Toto. So what did you think was the most memorable place that we sailed into?
Oh, look, the most memorable place we sailed into, I agree with you, Sydney Harbour. Something about, as you swing in past the North and South Head, in past the Sow and Pigs, and then all of a sudden, up in the distance, you can see the Opera House, and the further in you sail, as you're going past Middle Head, the coat hanger shows up, the famous Sydney Harbour Bridge. Absolutely mind-blowing to sail into a beautiful harbour like that. It is a beautiful waterway, there's no getting away from that. Close behind Sydney would be the great grand harbour of Valletta. As you sail into Malta, That is a pretty special place also, because you've got old and new, the armaments, the history they've had, the wars, the takeovers, the attempted takeovers, and it's all still there. You can see it all today.
Okay, what was the worst country for officialdom?
Sorry to our American friends, because I know you do it a lot easier than we do, being a foreign flag vessel, but going from the British Virgin Islands to the US Virgin Islands would have to be the most arduous task we ever undertook to cross a border. They will not let us sail our vessel directly in there. Well, they didn't at the time we were sailing, and we had to leave Annecam on a secure mooring down at Sopper's Hull on the west end of the British Virgin Islands, clear through customs and border control, jump on a ferry, go over, clear back in through customs and border control in the US Virgin Islands to tell them we're bringing a yacht over, and then go back out through customs and border control to catch the next ferry back to the British Virgin Islands and go through the whole process again, but this time with Annecam, to sail back over the whole 12 nautical miles to clear Annecam and us in to their country. And I asked them why, and they said, we're the US of A, we do things better. Well, I debated that, and I'd still debate that today. So cheers to all our lovely American friends. We love you all, but your customs and border security, just plainly, yeah.
What were your feelings when we saw the first sight of Fraser Island in Australia?
Oh, look, that was a bit of a hoot. I really started getting wound up when we crossed our international, what do you call it, economic zone with the 200-mile mark, which I'd marked on our chart plotter and gave us a line. We've got a plane going over top of us at the moment. Sorry about the extra noise, but I think it's one of the planes that fly in from Lady Elliot Eco Resort every day. There's a few planes come over, and that would have to be one of them. But anyway, my first thoughts, we crossed the international economic zone line, which is at 200 nautical miles out from Australia. I have that marked on the chart plotter. Was a bit of a hoot to say we're now on Australian waters. Then we had to cross the East Coast shipping lanes. There was a few of them to dodge as we came through. Big coal carriers and cargo vessels. But then all of a sudden, as we just approached the North Cardinal at the Breaksea Spit, for anybody that doesn't know where that is, it's off the north of Fraser Island. You can actually see down right on the horizon little lumps and bumps. Our first bit of terra firma belonging to Australia was Fraser Island. Then it took a long time after that before we actually sighted Australia. As we came in here, this is relatively low, relatively flat compared with the Pacific Island nations. We could see them from a squillion miles back because they're so tall. This bit of coastline here is pretty mundane for our visiting vessels coming in, but we could see the hummock first of all, and that's the old extinct volcano up behind Bundaberg. And then as we got in, within about 10 miles, we started to see the trees, the little other mountains up to the north of us, Round Hill, Mount Watalgan, and then the entrance to the port of Bundaberg, the Burnett River. And there was a bit of a hoot coming in there because they wouldn't let us tie up the first night. We had to anchor out because we hadn't cleared. We were still flying our Q flag, and they, by security and customs or border force, were to meet us on they gave us straight into our slip. We didn't have to go onto the quarantine dock. They said, with our history, they'd done a bit of background search, we could get us in. It was a pretty fun process. What was the name of the border force officer? Luke. Yeah. Luke, he was a bit of a clown. When he first walked up to us, he took one look at Annie and myself. He said, I've seen you guys before, and I thought, I actually seen us on Most Wanted Talk. Whatever. But anyway, turns out he followed us on YouTube and other people on YouTube that we've been on their sailing YouTube channel. So that's where he'd seen us before, and the conversation led from there to about when they first started following us on the yacht, and they virtually followed us all the way, so because they knew we were coming back into Australia. And was good to see we had someone looking over us, someone watching over us to make sure we got home safely.
What was the worst experience you felt?
Oh, look, probably the most terrifying experience that I personally had was not that monster of a storm we sailed through for 2.5 days in the Caribbean Sea. That was up there. But probably the nastiest piece of sailing we had was our last passage coming down the east coast, back into here. We sailed right through the heart of a supercell storm, and the lightning was just absolutely awe-inspiring. Just to see it smacking the water within about 50 metres of us and lighting up the bioluminescence in the sea. The noise was horrendous. The wind speed stayed up above 40 knots, sometimes up around 50 knots we were sailing in, but it went right around the dial, right around the clock. And I was very busy up here, hoping that we weren't going to be struck by lightning to start with. Nothing I could do about that, but to trim the sails, tack the sails. We were still going straight down the rum line, flying down the rum line. As a matter of fact, we averaged on that sail from Great Kettle to here, averaged 11.8 knots. And that was on very reduced sails. It was because of the wind speed, and we were just flying. We flew the whole way. Took less than 12 hours, which is absolutely ridiculous in a vessel like this. Come ready. Bring your cushion.
No, we're not smooching up.
No. We're not. I didn't say we were.
Well, what are
But
you?
then again, it's good for it.
What are you plotting, Steve?
What am I plotting? I'm plotting that I think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap, baby.
Now,
Absolutely amazing, guys. You guys are all still here. You could knock me over with a feather. Hit the like and the subscribe, and we'll see you when the next video comes out. Catch ya.